Hi and welcome to E-ZTutoring. Today we're going to cover how you can identify the vertex, focus, directrix, and the length of the lattice rectum of any given parabola. Now, you may be given an equation in certain types of forms, but you will always want to rewrite it in vertex form, which is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. There are different methods to find all of these things, and those different methods may involve different forms. This is just one of the forms you can do it from, and this is the form I am choosing to do it from. So from this form, you can find your vertex from the points h, k. Now, as I'm finding each one of these things, I'm going to cover what they actually mean, what they actually do on a parabola. So let's suppose we have a U-shaped parabola like so. Your vertex is just the bottommost point or the uppermost point of your parabola. And by uppermost point, I mean if your parabola is facing downwards. All right, that is our vertex. I'm not going to focus too much on this, but you can also find your axis of symmetry by just saying x equals h. And your axis of symmetry simply crosses through the parabola like so. X equals h. Pretty much your axis of symmetry means that everything to the left and everything to the right of your axis will be exactly the same. All right, next up we have our focus. Your focus is listed at the point h, k plus 1 over 4a. So if you guys remember, our vertex is h, k. This is almost the same as the vertex, except that it will either go up or down a little bit. So your focus is going to be right over here. Now, a lot of students have trouble understanding what the focus actually does. So I will explain what the focus does after I find our directrix, because these two go hand in hand. So your directrix is going to be at y equals k minus 1 over 4a. You'll notice that k was our y coordinate of the vertex, so therefore our directrix is going to be somewhere below the vertex. So this is the line y equals k minus 1 over 4a. All right. So I'm going to explain now what the directrix and focus do. So pretty much any point on this parabola will be equidistant from the focus and the directrix. What I mean by that is, suppose that we choose a point right over here. Therefore, the distance from here to the focus and the distance from here to the directrix will be exactly the same. It will be equal. If we choose a point here, the distance from here to the focus and from here to the directrix will be exactly the same. No matter which point you choose, all of them will be equidistant. So that is what the focus and directrix mean. All right, and now, last but not least, we need to find the length of our lattice rectum. So, barely have room to fit this in here, but our lattice rectum is going to be the absolute value of 1 over a. All right, so that is everything we need to know. The lattice rectum is going to be the distance that crosses through the focus and has endpoints on the parabola. So this distance right here is going to be your lattice rectum. And these all have an association with a. If you remember, the focus and the directrix are just a difference of 1 over 4a compared to the vertex. And the lattice rectum is just 1 over a. All right, so now suppose that we have an equation of y equals negative 2x squared plus 5x minus 10. And we are asked to find all these different things. I won't go over actually graphing these things because That part is as simple as just taking these numbers and putting them on a graph, but I will go over how to find all these different things. So first things first, we need to write this equation into vertex form. Now, this is given to us in standard form, so we need to rewrite it. So what we should do is we should factor out a -2. We are going to factor out a -2, but only from these two numbers. Then over here, we are left with -5/2x. And I'm going to leave some room, and I'm going to put the -10 on the outside of the parentheses. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically completing the square here so I can get something squared, and I'm going to add and subtract something that will allow me to complete the square. I don't want to focus too much on this because this video will end up being too long. So if you guys are having trouble with this, I recommend looking up my video on how to complete the square. Anyways, we take b/2 now, which is -5/2 divided by 2. That gives you -5/4. And you square it. That gives you plus 25/16. Plus 25/16. That is what we need in order to complete the square. But I'm not allowed to just go ahead and add 25/16. So I also have to subtract 25/16. You know, I'm kind of running out of room here, but that's semi-readable. All right. Now, we don't want the 25/16 in the parentheses because then we won't be able to complete the square. We only want these three terms in the parentheses. So to bring this out of the parentheses, we will have to multiply it by -2. So now we are left with -2 parentheses x squared minus 5/2x plus 25/16. And then on the outside, we multiply -2 by this, which gives us positive 50/16 plus 50/16 minus 10. Okay, so now we can complete the square. -2 times x minus b, which was 5/2/2. So that is -5/4 squared. And then we can go ahead and combine these numbers. 50/16 is really 25/8. 10 is really 80/8. 25 minus 80 will give you 55/8. So that is minus 55/8. Okay, so we finally got it in vertex form, which means we can finally start finding these things. So like I said, your first step is to always rewrite your equation and get into vertex form. That will make life a lot easier. So our vertex is simply h comma k, if we remember from here. Now it's x minus h. So this is x minus h. So h is just 5/4. It's not -5/4. If you ever have trouble with this, just remember that h is always going to be the opposite of this sign. All right, so that is our h. Now what is our k? Plus k, and we have plus -55/8. So our k is -55/8. And our axis is just x equals h, so x equals this number right here. Alrighty. So now that we found these two things, now we can go ahead and start finding the focus. So the focus is h comma. So let's go ahead and plug in h, which we know is 5/4, comma, k plus 1/4a. So here's where things start getting a little bit complicated. First, let's find out what 1/4a, because we are going to be using this number a lot. 1/4a. This is equal to 1/4 times a, and our a is -2. Like so. So that will give us -1/8. Okay, so our focus is h comma. We found the h. Now we need k, which is -55/8, plus 1/4a. So negative 55 over 8 plus negative 1 over 8. So if you combine those two together, that is going to give you negative 56 over 8. So that is going to give us negative 7. All right, so we found our focus. Very good. Now that we found our focus, we can now find our directrix. Y equals k minus 4a. So here's k. Here is 1 over 4a. But now we have to do this one minus this one. And this one is a negative. So it's going to be negative 55 over 8 plus 1 over 8, which is going to give us negative 54 over 8. So our directrix, negative 54 over 8 simplifies down to negative 27 over 4. So y equals negative 27 over 4. Last but not least, we need to find our lattice rectum. We need to find this length right here. So this length we know is the absolute value of 1 over a. Our a value is negative 2. 1 over negative 2 is simply negative 1 over 2. And then we take the absolute value of that, which turns it positive, which means our lattice rectum has a length of 1 over 2. Okay, so we have found everything we need. Like I said, I won't actually graph all these things because this video will be too long, but I'll give you guys some pointers on how to graph this. This is simply a point, so you can simply plot a point and do that. You can graph your parabola, so you can see where your parabola is. That is earlier topics in Algebra 2. You can plot your axis, x equals, which is going to be a vertical line that crosses through an x of 5 over 4. Your focus is just another point, so you can just plot a point. And it looks like this is going to be below the vertex, which means our parabola is going to be opening downwards. So it's going to look something like this, with our vertex here and our focus here. After you find that, you can go ahead and label your directrix, which is actually less than the vertex, which means the directrix will be up here. And y equals means it's a horizontal line crossing through the y value of negative 27 over 4. And last but not least, we have our lattice rectum, which is simply this length right here, which is the length of 1/2. So that is roughly what your graph will look like. Now, I hope this all made more sense to you guys. I know it's a lot of information, but what I recommend is doing practice. Doing practice will help you remember all these different things that you need to know about your parabola. All right, well, if you guys ever need ACT or SAT help, be sure to visit my website, www.e-ztutoring.com. Thank you guys and have a good day.